Said you were talking. Okay. You hear on the news, they were talking about this man coming knocking on people's door, asking for money and saying his car was parked at St. Mary. He came knocking on my door. I said, you got to be kidding. You know, my God. Yes, he did.
Oh my goodness, yeah. All kind of things going.
My sister said it was on the news, so I didn't hear it. She told me it was on the news. And when he came to my door and I told her, she said, they were just talking about that on the news.
Yeah,
I should have had a pit bull to stick on it.
Oh, okay. Be very careful nowadays. Okay. About ready?
You know, it's funny how smart dogs are. My dog said he was going to my dog wouldn't even. And how the dogs are going. My dog stood right behind me and watched. Did you protect the dog? Yeah. Like he can bite somebody. He's acting bark.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started in just a moment. We just want to make sure we have all things set in order. Just before we begin, we're going to ask if you have your cell phones, if you could just place those on vibrate, we would appreciate it. We'll give you a moment to do that. And just while we're doing that, just want to say good evening to everyone, and thank you so much for coming out. And for those who are with us online, we thank you for joining us. And should you have any questions regarding the process and what we're going through, feel free. I think there's a hand function that will get our attention, and we'll be more than happy to have you participate as well. Thank you so much for being with us. So at this time, thank you so much. So at this time, we're going to call the Tonawanda Park Local Planning Agency, or the LPA, a hearing of October 5th, 2021 at the session. Roll call, please.
They're all there.
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Green.
Here.
Councilmember McConnell.
Here.
And Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Thank you so much. All those accounted for. Of course, the purpose for this is for the LPA. Of course, is we have public hearings. So what we're going to do as it relates to consider making recommendations to the town council amending code of ordinances. So what we're going to do at this point in time, we're going to go to a committee, and we'll begin there at the very first public hearing document.
Thank you, sir. Just two very small notes just to make for purposes of motions. I'll explain the ordinances, but the first item on your agenda, the ordinance number isn't there, but it's 2021-05. That's okay. I just want to make it easy for the motioning. The second one is 2021-06. These don't need to be read by title, so I won't do that. The first ordinance is 2021-05. As you can see in the backup, this was one of the items that NILSA brought to you several weeks ago at a council meeting. This is essentially just a cleanup item. It's changing the level of service to reflect the same number that was in your most recent comprehensive plan. So you'll see on page 4 of the ordinance, that should be it's up your packet, it's page 4, but there's just one change. It's changing it from what used to say 100 gallons per capita to 176, and that's again to make it consistent with your comprehensive plan. This is first reading. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Of course, as the committee stated, that we're looking at the particular ordinance 2021-05, and we had this presented before, so if you've had opportunity to take a look at it and read through it, if there are any questions or comments as it relates to the proposed ordinance 2021-05.
Mr. Mayor, if I could correct myself, this is not first reading. You are sitting as the LPA, so you are a recommending body to council. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Thank you, sir.
Well, certainly, so noted. Okay. So with that correction for the record, any comments or questions on behalf of council? Any comments or questions? Okay. And as the attorney stated, this is just a little cleanup. We have that one deletion and insertion. Everything else, as you see, remains in effect. But are there any council comments or questions as it relates to the proposed ordinance? Hearing none. Okay. So we'll go to staff, if there's anything from staff. Cool. All righty. And this is, of course, a public hearing, so if there's any public comment, we'll entertain that at this point in time. The floor is open for public comment. And for the record, while we're waiting, because we are virtual, we do allow 45 seconds. I think there's about a 45-second delay, and so you hear silence for about 45 seconds. We want to give an opportunity in case there's a delay that you're actually heard. Thank you so much. We'll now close the floor to public comment, and we'll come back now to the dais. Any questions or comments on behalf of council? Any comments or questions?
Yes, Nettie, can you please just...
I'm sorry, just a point of, if Councilman Smith, if you could speak into the mic. There we go. Okay, thanks.
Could you please just repeat briefly the cleanup on it, because you read it, kind of read it fast, I didn't...
Yes, sir. I'm sorry about that. It's just one, it's actually one edit to page 4 to make your ordinance consistent with your most recent and your new comprehensive plan. So all that this is doing is changing the number from what it currently says in your code of ordinances. The number is 100 to the number 176, which matches your comprehensive plan, which is the correct number. So we're just bringing your code current to to reflect the accurate number.
And this is good based on the last meeting where we had a presentation on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Nilsa went through the proposed revision. It's because you most recently have sent your new comp plan up and gotten that back. So this is just making your code consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Thanks so much. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, we have gone to the floor for comments, and at this point, if there's no other council comments or questions, hearing none, of course, this is before us for action, so at this point in time, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I so move that we recommend to the town council the approval of ordinance 2021-05, which is the cleaning up of our charter to the comprehensive.
Thank you so much. A motion has been made to refer to the council, ordinance 2021-5. Is there a second?
Second.
Has been properly moved in second. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Green?
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Vice Chair Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Alden?
Yes.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you so much. Our next item is is ordinance 2021-06. This as well was presented before us, and so you have that information before you. We're going to go now to committee as it relates to the ordinance. And
Thank you, sir. Again, this is 2021-06. It doesn't need to be read by title at LPA, but this is another ordinance. This is, you similarly heard a presentation by your town planner a couple of weeks ago. This is making one edit to section 9 to your schedule of site regulations to add a column for minimum open space and insert that 20% requirement there. As the ordinance indicates, generally your current code requires professional, commercial, and industrial zone sites excluding PUDs to contain 20%. So this is adding that 20% to all of your districts in the schedule of site regulations. So there's other reference throughout the code to the 20% requirement. This is just putting it in your table of site regulations. So it's very clear for applicants when they come to town and they're applying for projects that they very clearly see in your in your table what the open space requirement is.
Thank you so much for that description, Amity. At this point in time, are there any questions or comments on behalf of council? Any council comments or questions?
Yes. The last meeting we had, there was a young lady that was kind of confused about in the planning and this ordinance that we're passing. We had two areas, 45th on Australia. She was kind of confused. I want to make sure that, but I hope she's listening or on call and clear that up, that she understands that.
And I recall that conversation. That was a totally separate issue from this that had no relation to this.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go to the floor. The floor is now open for public comment as it relates to on the proposed ordinance 2021-06. At this time, public comment. Thank you so much. Seeing that there is no public comment, we'll now close the floor to public comment. We'll arrive now back to the dais. Are there any other questions or comments as it relates to the proposed ordinance from council? Hearing none, we'll see if there's anything from staff. Ken? Okay, thank you so much. Seeing that there's no other comment or questions as it relates to the proposed ordinance 2021-06, motion please.
Mr. Mayor, I make a recommendation, take to the town council approval of ordinance 2021-06. As presented.
Thank you so much. Motion has been made to forward to council ordinance 2021-06 for consideration. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Has been properly seconded. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson. And Mayor Longman.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Those were the only two items before us as it relates to the LPA, or Local Planning Agency, at this point in time. So we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion adjourned.
Motion has been made and seconded for adjournment. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Pull same sign. It is carried. Thanks so much. We'll take a 1 or 2 minute break, and then we'll get right into our regular meeting. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So at this point in time, we're going to become prepared to call the meeting into session. Excuse me, this mask is. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for your time and your attention and your attendance. At this time, we're going to call the Town of Magonia Park regular council meeting of October 5th, 2021 into session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Alberry,
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson, Councilmember Green,
Here.
Councilmember McConnell,
Here.
and Councilmember Smith.
Thank you so much. At this time, let us stand for our invocation, please. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity and this day that you've given to us. We pray and ask now that what we say and do here would be pleasing to thee, and may we advance the agenda and the cause of the town. May we always be mindful of the fact of while we were elected and appointed, we ask that you would be with us throughout this process. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. A pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. You may be seated. So at this time, we'll attend to our agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or substitutions to the agenda?
None from staff, sir.
Thank you so much. Seeing that there's no amendments to the agenda, we will proceed as submitted. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as submitted? It has been moved by Councilwoman Green to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It is carried. Thanks so much. Our next item is we'll consider those items that, of course, are for our consent agenda. We have on our consent agenda items 2A, minutes of the final budget hearing of 9/21/2021. Item 2B, minutes of our LPA hearing of 9/21/2021. Item 2C, minutes of our regular meeting of 9/21/2021. And those are the items we have annotated at this time. Are there any other items to be considered to be added or deleted from the consent agenda? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'm so moved that we approve the consent agenda.
It has been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. It is carried. Thanks so much. We'll continue on our agenda. And again, we thank you for those who are visiting with us, both in person and online. Feel free to be a part of the process as we go through the agenda. Next item, of course, is item 4A. And this is our presentation and update by Kalisha Buchanan Webb, referencing the Youth Council.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good
Vice
Evening.
Mayor, council members, happy am I to stand before you guys yet another time with such a great opportunity. My purpose of coming is to actually reopen the youth council that was started, and then there was actually a gap. It could be due to the pandemic, or I'm not quite sure what happened, but nevertheless, I am standing before you guys. I was contacted from someone from the League of City by the name of Aaron Russell, to whom has just ignited my fiery flames and the passion that I had for the children. Not to mention the many texts, phone calls I get every now and then from the youths that were a part of it. I have heard expressions of, we miss you, we miss what we used to do. There are some kids that has fallen through depression because, they didn't really have stability. And then, I'm a parent myself. I can't get through to my own kids. And sometimes being that person, that listening ear, I often say to myself, why is it I can't get through my own kids, but I can get through to others? And it's because they found trust in you, and they just feel like they can confide in you. And I believe that we have lost a few of our members along the way mentally. Mental health is so big within our community right about now, where African Americans, especially our teenagers, are getting lost because of the social distance and the gap, and you find where they're finding other avenues. So I think it's very vital that we reopen this program. With networking with Mr. Russell, we had conversations upon conversations on to where and how we can lead this. I can say for the youths that we did a lot in a short period of time. We were open, not to mention the transformation, how organized they were. They were quick and ready to assist, and not to mention the opportunities that the town gave them and the givebacks they received and what they were able to give back to the town itself. I'll be in a training tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and I guess all the youth councils from other counties are gonna be there. And then this coming Saturday, there's gonna be a youth council summit. I have also, had application that I had, and Mr. Metcalf, also helped me to print a few. I have 4 students so far that are interested. The others are so iffy, but they do want to get back involved. And one of the things I love about this summit, on this Saturday, mental health is one of the biggest topic on, like that's the top of it. So the session that we're gonna have tomorrow is like a hosted session. It's gonna help us to be able to help the kids to identify different things. I'm not really sure of all the avenues because I haven't attended yet. So I am standing before you guys just asking for your support. I can say the last time I believe that the youth council could have been supported more, not just with your time. It could be volunteering, monetary donation, phone calls. It was even seeing John on the street saying, hey, we have this very cool program. So my purpose of standing here is just to ask for you to volunteer your time, whether by phone calls, whether by knocking on someone's door, and we're not doing that anymore. But the bus comes here and then we see teenagers and kids walking throughout the community with nothing to do. And it's from age 9 to 18. Financial donation from the town budget and supporting us just finding children. When I say finding children, it could be that that child has this really good support system at home, but there's this one thing that's bothering John, and John cannot tell their parents. And that one single thing ends up festering into a sore that causes behavioral issues. And when you think it's one thing, but because that child has that thing within them, they can't let out, it turns them into something different. And before you look into it, that child is far gone, and it's going to take more to pull that child back. While if we're intervening and helping our community to grow, as if the DS will transform, who to tell what would happen next year, the year before, years to come. We want, when we're nurturing our youths, we're building them and helping them to grow with self-esteem, ambition, you name it, the list goes on. So they can be mayors, vice mayors, council members, attorneys, officers, managers, and all the various positions. They just need that extra help, that extra love, that person that's telling them that they're beautiful, they belong, they're worthy. And it's not that they're probably not hearing those words, they're probably not hearing them enough. So what you guys have in front of you is just a few pictures of what we have done. These are not all of them. We have a lot of pictures and we did a lot of stuff. But it's just to show you what we have done so far. Vice Mayor was able to come to a few of our meetings. Ken has been there with me from the day we opened until you name it. I see Miss Albury, she sits there and she cooks, and you know, it just takes taking the community to come together. There's no I in team, and I believe if we come together, it can work. And that's it for my presentation. Any questions, concerns?
Okay, thank you so much, and we definitely applaud your volunteerism and your interest to get it going again, which we support. So at this point in time, we'll see if there's any, well, Vice Mayor, then Councilwoman Green.
Vice Mayor first.
Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that the youth council is on the rise. I appreciated the work that you did to stimulate the activities of youth. And they were very responsive and very cooperative in working with the plans that we did have. I know Christmas giveaway, they were very involved in making sure that even the families nearby got their gifts delivered to their homes. They carried them themselves if they could. And I do appreciate their desire to be involved with what the town is doing. I know I had some running in my car at one of the events, and they had a lot of questions just to try to understand how the town operates. And I shared with them my appreciation for that. That's what it takes, you know, the desire to learn, become involved in order to actually make a difference. So appreciate that. I was thinking about you and even asked about what was happening with the youth council during the pandemic. Referred a few times to the town manager because I was concerned what was being done, when we were able to keep track of those who we had been working with in the past. So glad to know that the work is continuing. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Councilman Green?
I'm embarrassed. Hi, Ms. Webb. Okay. Okay. I'm not familiar with the youth council in Magnolia Park. I did not know we had one. Now, we have a youth council specific in Magnolia Park, or when you mentioned Mr. Russell, he has one in the county and we are joining him, or what? Educate me.
Well, I'm so sorry you were not aware of it. When the youth council was formed, you were not a part of on the dais. However, as a community member, there's been flyers, I've knocked on doors, there were opportunities. Not only that, there were at events that you were also present at. So I'm sorry you weren't aware of it. Mr. Russell, I've never met, or I think it's actually Miss Russell. She reached out to me because when we started it before, I am not really sure she got a hold of my information, but I received an email and I just reached back out to her. And after communicating, she encouraged me to continue. So I'm taking up the mantle because unlike any mother, I don't believe in abortions, and you know, to each his own. And I believe when I became pregnant with this project, I didn't abort it. I gave birth, brought it through. And for some reason, it ended up in foster care, and it's just my goal to actually take it back.
Okay, now, when I'm asking, okay, this youth council is organized in the town of Magnolia Park, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, you're over this council, right?
And then myself.
Where do they meet?
Where do we meet?
Right.
We meet at Hampton Court. Back then, when we started it, it was Hampton Court. Hampton Court opened their doors.
No.
They was their office. When we went to Tiffany Lakes, they shut us down. They wouldn't accept our applications. However, I did go out there, knock on doors, spoke to a few parents, and we had no one from Tiffany Lakes. The majority was from Hampton Court. We met with the town manager and I think the owner then that opened their doors and allowed us to have the meetings there.
Okay, what I'm trying to find out is the structure. Who's over them? Where do they meet? How many are there? What is the name?
I can't say that now because, like I said, it ended up in foster care, so it's just a matter of me trying to figure out where our children are.
Oh, you mean the organization? Okay, I'll talk to you afterward.
Sure.
Okay. Because I'm lost.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I might, so to help Ms. Green out a little bit, it's open to all children in Magnolia Park ages 9 through 18. And it is structured to where the kids come in, they plan community activities. Like Ms. Buchanan-Webb said, they help out with the Christmas event. That was just an easy thing. They actually, when we had the food giveaway at the park, we did get some assistance from there also. During COVID, we had met, I think, 3 times virtually until that just finally, fell off. We do have officers. We do have a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and historian. And they do meet, they conduct meetings very formally, similar to what a town council would do, and they came a long way on that. So we're just anxious to get it started again. Ms. Buchanan-Webb has a very unique connection with the youth, and it's really benefited the town. I think once we get going again, I think everyone will see the results.
Okay, you were saying once we get started again, and I thought she was, now I'm really lost. Okay, you said once we get started again, and I thought she was saying and talked about something that we have going on now. The reason we'll talk about it afterwards because I'm looking at our captain right now, and I know several people. we are really, really concerned with Mangonia Park because even the county, our commissioner, and I'm glad you are, it's so appropriate that you are here now because Commissioner McBernard, his assistant, asked me the other day, and I just spoke to our captain. He wanted to know how many males, junior high and senior high males that we have in the town of Mangonia Park. I have no clue. And as you notice, I remember I've been here 30 years. And when I got here, Ms. Webb, we had a lot of young men and women. You are so perfect. This is so appropriate. And our young men, you don't see anymore. So I'm glad we have something. But I was just saying that I'd like to work with you, and I know the captain does. So we all, you need to be working with me, the captain. A lot of us, evidently, we are all failing your leadership. Because if we weren't feeling your leadership, I would know about it, and there will be more people in the community working with these children other than you. And if we're going to have a community and somebody like you wanting to help the children, it should be more people than you, is what I'm saying. And I just feel bad, and I apologize. So I said I will talk to you, apologize you after the meeting because I'd like to know more about it because I am embarrassed that I don't know how long it's been here, the town manager. You are talking about when we meet again. I don't even know we even met the first time. So that we've let her down in that you were talking about. How long has this been going on, Madam President?
We've had the program for about a year prior to March of this year.
Okay, so I'll get your number.
Well, really, I mean, a year prior to pandemic. A year prior to pandemic, they were operating and active, meeting on a monthly basis. And very, very involved in what they can do in the town of Mangonia Park. I know when I met with them, they wanted to know about being part of a cleanup campaign.
Yeah, that was our next project that they had. The kids that came together with ideas of what they wanted to see the program look like and how they wanted to reach out to the community. So we were gonna do the cleanup, then they were gonna plan something for the senior citizens. I think there were 3 things that we had in the hat, and then we pulled the community cleanup first, and that's what they wanted to work on. So we were going to connect with Lieutenant and Solid Waste Authority, and I forgot who else, and then the pandemic happened.
Also, they mentioned there were some members from the Brevard area also on the council, not just those
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Sydney. I mean,
No, I said the majority was from over there.
I just want to make sure it's
Okay.
clear that there were members from Brevard that were part of it. We hope that they continue.
Okay. Ken, but just before you do, Ken, and then we'll come back to the dais. Okay.
I was just gonna say that this is, Mr. Mayor, we did lose a lot of momentum. I know everyone blames COVID for everything, but we did lose momentum. The kids were out of school there for a while and everything was shut down, so it was really hard to get anything going. However, the kids did participate in that food giveaway that we had at the park back in June of 2020. And we have stayed connected with some. Some have gone to college now, but we have. And also, we were involved in an essay, I won't say it was a contest.
Yeah,
but
they were
essay
gonna go to
thing
Tallahassee.
for the state.
Mhm.
And the kids were gonna be going to the Capitol.
Yeah, the same week they were supposed to leave, I think that's when the shutdown started happening. Or they were hesitant, they weren't sure, and then they rescheduled the date and then eventually they canceled it. So I think 4 from our group were heading to Tallahassee.
Okay. Councilwoman Green?
I said I was going to talk to you afterwards, but Mr. Metcalf, when you're bringing things up like that, that was why I was asking questions. We're talking about, now you're talking about kids going to college and you bring the college up and organization. Is this a registered organization that can collect funds that can really help children? I mean, if we are talking about children, is it a registered organization? Now, you said college, students going to college. If it's not a registered organization, you can't just go out and take money from somebody and try to help kids go to college. But that's the type of thing I hope, that's the type of way I would like to help her. Because you just said kids going to college. Did anybody help him give him any money?
Not college anyway. That was in their plan. So
No.
they went-
I don't think he was saying that no one helped them financially to go to college. The kids are phased out the program because there's a gap at age 18. However, they would no longer be a part of that program because they've gone off to college. I don't think he's trying to say the program sent them to college or the town sent them to college.
Okay, that's what I was saying. I'd like to see, I love what you're doing, but I want us to have a registered organization that we can really help you. You understand what I'm saying? And okay, that's all I'm saying. Anytime anybody tell you about me, when you start talking about children, I just admire anyone who's helping them and do the best you can, but I don't want to see you working by yourself, especially in a town like Mangonia Park where we don't have anything for our children.
I guess just as a sort of 30-second backdrop, of course, the youth councils and our charter itself in most municipalities, if not all, allow for the establishment of youth councils. The person that she'll be working with, my understanding is that as a youth council sort of an entity, it is registered. However, for us and here within Mangonia Park, we did not go through a state registration to get a VIN number, anything like that for contributions. What we basically did initially was just to begin because there was an interest, and Ms. Webb, and thank you so much, had an interest in, number one, saving our kids. And how do we go about doing that? And then getting them involved in the political process and things that happen within society in general, right? And so it just sort of fostered that way, and then we got a meeting place, and then various other things began to happen. And that's basically just in a nutshell and how it all sort of came about, this grassroots kind of effort. And so when she mentioned that, she was reached out, and she can clarify. When contact was made, it was because they understood that there was a youth council here. And I guess that individual was sort of reaching out, how things going, and, and Ms. Webb was able to share that, well, we sort of hit the pause button, intentionally, unintentionally, and like you said, we need to get it out of foster care. It went to, I like that expression, so we need to just sort of take it out of that process and get it back with the family, that being the town of Mangonia Park. So it did have the covering of Mangonia Park because we did approve of the establishment of it, and so that it could exist. And so that's where it is. It still exists, at least on paper. We just need to get the paper, get it off the paper and back into practice again. And that's why she's before us tonight. And I think at least from my standpoint, yes, we need to do this again. Yeah, because as stated, through attrition, individuals who are now matriculated, they're off into college. As Ken stated, they applied and they're just of their own, they went off to college. So we've missed some now because they're off in college, and that's a great thing, right? But there's somebody that came right after them that's old enough now to take their place. So we just got to get out and recruit and participate. Okay. All right. Anything else you want to add, Ms. Webb? Okay. All righty. So any other questions or comments? All right. No.
For bringing the youth together again, is there a place or is it a virtual meeting? What's going to be next?
The youth summit on this Saturday, it's virtual.
Most likely.
They're not doing anything in person as yet, and our intention, I just started putting stuff together, so after tomorrow, I will get a better understanding of how the program will be more structured. So when I started it, I was just brainstorming. Now with Ms. Russell, I will have more of it's just like going to college, you're learning all the steps, so what to do, pros, cons type of thing, instead of actually brainstorming. So I'm quite sure when we do have our students, our meetings will be virtual. I did go back to visit Hampton Court. The manager was very nice. She did go ahead and open up again. If we were to ever start doing the meetings, it would be like social distance. And she mentioned that their pools and stuff were closed. And now what they're doing is taking their time and reopening. So whatever support we need from them. She also mentioned that she's gonna do a community meeting, I think it was, or some other stuff she was saying that she had in place. But because she had got sick, it's more like she has to go back to the drawing board. So those are things that she's getting ready to invite, not just myself, but, the town too, she do get those dates together. As for Tiffany, it's always been hard reaching out to anyone in that office. I think they're very rude over there, but I will try again, sometime this week to see if I can form a relationship with whomever is there. I mean, I'm not quite sure.
Right.
And then as for the community effort, my goal is to go to the parents that I actually know. Some I've already spoken to. Actually, 2 parents came to me out of the blue this week, and I just handed them an application.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To that, I would, just to counsel, I would simply say this, and of course our attorney is here to kind of help shape if I sort of misstate anything. This is an organization by which we voted for, and so thus gave sanction to, and it's a part of who we are, which means that it should be able to use our facilities. We shouldn't have to go out and knock on doors and beg and everything else. We have a community center that would allow for the spacing necessary, particularly in this environment of COVID, to allow for the distancing to take place. And of course, we do the sanitation of the facility and all of that. So my position would be that I think we should be opening up our facility to the meeting, as opposed to trying to find a place and be displaced again and again and again. And to that point, you'll notice that picture that was held, I think that was held around the holiday when we had the awards banquet and all of that, was held right here because it was a town-related function. So I think we'd be fine in opening up a facility, perhaps the community center. If I misstated anything?
No, sir, you're correct.
Okay. Okay. All righty. Councilman Smith?
Mr. Mayor, so is that correct? And this Commonwealth was mentioning that you were going to ask if you should use virtual, but now are we abandoning virtual meetings and going to now what you're suggesting there to use our facilities as the community center or some site center we're involved with? So are we abandoning virtual and going to a meeting place, actual meeting place?
Is that question towards me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't think we're going to abandon the whole virtual. So to start, we would like to start virtually. As is, a lot of parents don't feel comfortable sending their children out. So until they say to me, hey, I am comfortable sending them, and they want to know where, even me having a daycare, if I'm doing a function, we're in the new norm, and it's just a matter of living in it, and it's the how we do it type of thing. And I have parents say, well, Ms. Kalisha, how are you going to do a luncheon when COVID is still there? That don't mean we stop living. I show them, hey, I have a really big yard. We're going to have one family at that table, and the minute I made them vision what I was saying, they were opening to come into a luncheon at the daycare that involved their children participating, and you'll be surprised how happy the parents were because their mindset was so isolated and full of fear because of the fact that, hey, I feel if I go outside, my kids are going to get COVID and they're going to die. I had parents that didn't want to send their kids to daycare because of the same thing, but at the end of the day, you could go to the park and get COVID. You can go across the street. Someone could come and knock on your door. COVID could come show up at anywhere. That don't mean we stop living. So I believe when those times come, we'll accept the whole part of using the facility.
Well, thank you. I thank for kind of clarifying because we're kind of opening up discussion wanting to make sure that COVID doesn't still exist. So that's what my mindset. I don't care if we do virtual or whatever, as long as we do it safely. But since the mayor brought that we could use our facilities, and I kind of got I'm on the fence. So I'm more about safety than still having this youth council function and get off to a better starting point. But I just wanted some clarity. So you answered it about the virtue part. And so I guess there'll be more future discussion about actually at one point using a facility.
We mentioned it because of the fact that we were using Hampton Court's office
Okay.
because they offered it. So it was more like they found out we were doing this and they were amazed and they wanted to be a part of it. So they said, here, use our facility. Most of our kids, the kids you have there is from here. So they opened their doors and they would stay there till 7, 8 o'clock. We didn't have to clean up and all this other stuff. So to me, it was like a win-win, and it was an offer we weren't gonna turn out. But I believe in this case, what the mayor's trying to say, instead of going over there where it's not that much space, the community center have way enough space where you won't have to worry about social distance. It will be way more than 6 feet apart.
So certainly, and also, and I'll come right to you, Councilman Green, and to add to it, the reason why I thought, and of course, as you stated, that's a decision that this body would make. I was stating that we should open up that possibility at a point in time that they're ready for that, because I, without articulating everything, it would take too much time. There's a lot of things that can take place at our facility that maybe they can't do there. For instance, we're in an environment of COVID, and I'll just be on record by saying I unashamedly promote vaccination. I do. Unashamedly. But, and so from the standpoint of not that you would take kids and promote it because their parents may or may not, but what you basically may be able to do is that for those who are 18 and 19, they've emancipated legally, who feel a certain way that, yes, I have influence over my friends, right? And we could have a vaccination clinic if it came to that. We couldn't ask Hampton Court to do that because, you know, the way that their funding went, they may not be able to. So as an example, right? So when you're in your own facilities, it opened up other possibilities. As an example.
Thank you, Mayor.
Most certainly. Councilman Green.
Appreciate you clearing it up.
I'm glad the captain came back. I guess I was trying to not put a damper on anything. And I again say I wanted to meet with you personally, and the reason I said that is because anytime you start something like this, it's profound, and it's going to have a great impact on our children. And it's at a time now where we really have to be very careful. And I'm speaking now directly to our attorney sitting there and our captain back there. And I'm, from my heart, I want to meet with you and make sure it's successful, starting off the ground the right way. I wouldn't want to jeopardize you, your family, nor me. But due to the tenure of what's happening in this world today, you're jeopardizing your family and you. When you said, yeah, there may be virus, but they can catch a virus anywhere. That is why I said I wanted to meet with you personally with the goals that you have in mind with our children. But I would not sit down with you and discuss anything with children now without first working with the captain and the police and going through our town attorney. But I don't know whether she would be involved because it's a different day, but I know with the captain. And I think you understand where I'm coming from, and he does too, and I'll say again, and if anyone thinks I'm not saying that I want to put a damper anywhere, I just want to make sure that it started out right for you and for our children. Something of this magnitude and at this time in our society right now, we need to do it, but it has to be started out correctly. And I won't tell you, I won't say anything else, but I do say again, I hope you have my number, and I hope we'll be able to work together, starting with the captain.
Okay.
Thank you for your support.
Well, certainly. All right. Any other questions before we finish with Ms. Webb? Any other questions? Just know that you have our support, and at the point in time that we're ready to go in terms of just live, that be the in-person, I will personally make sure that that a representative from the Department of Health, the epidemiology department, will be able to come out and give presentation to the council, to this body, about how to go about and move in enclosed environments safely, and, so that we'll make sure that we do the best we can. Oh, great. Okay. Thanks. All righty. So now this was a presentation, and I think that we do have consensus that we need to get going again, and so I think everybody is obligating themselves to support. Alrighty, so there you are. Yes, we're all in. Okay. Okay, thanks so much, we appreciate it. Okay. Right, our next item is item 5, and this is our Palm Beach County League of Cities meeting.
Thank you, sir. Just a calendar note for you. The next general membership meeting for the league is October 27th. That's lunch is at 11:30. The general membership meeting starts at 12 noon. It is out at Sandhill Crane Golf Club in Palm Beach Gardens. That's the new municipal golf club house that they built out there on North Lake Boulevard. The speaker is going to be Clarence Anthony. He's the executive director of the National League of Cities. So there wasn't a presentation topic yet. If it comes out before your next meeting, I'll bring it back to you, but he will be the speaker. And that's the update I have for you. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add that, I do have the vice mayor and council member Green, your RSVP is in, along with myself.
Okay. All right, and if any...
Anyone else, just let me know and we'll
Okay, certainly. We do appreciate it. Any questions or comments for our meeting? Thank you so much. Okay, we'll move on in our agenda. Our next item is item 6A, and this is ordinance number 2021-05, of course, first reading. This was advanced to us from our LPA for consideration committee.
Thank you, sir. I do have to read this one by title. This is ordinance number 2021-05. It is an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Mangonia Park, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Mangonia Park at Chapter 8.5 Concurrency Review Requirements and Procedures at Section 8.5-4 Review Requirements Application to revise the town's code, the town code's adopted potable water level of service to be consistent with the level of service provided in the town's comprehensive plan, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 8.5 Concurrency Review Requirements and Procedure shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. As was explained just very briefly again at LPA, the same thing. This is a consistency edit to make that one change to the level of service number, changing it from 100 to 176. As you said, it's first reading. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Amity. Are there any questions or comments from council? Hearing none. Anything from administration? Okay. Thank you so much. And if there's any council, public comment. Thank you so much. Hearing that there's no public comment, we'll close the floor to public comment. We'll come now back to the desk to see if there's any questions or comments as it relates to the proposed ordinance. Hearing none, a motion, please.
Make a motion, we approve 2021-5 first reading, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8.5 concurrency.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Motion has been made and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Green?
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson?
Yeah.
And Mayor Alden?
Yes. Thank you so much. Our next item is item 6B, ordinance number 2021-06. This is also comes as a recommendation from the LPA committee as it relates to amending Code of Ordinance at Appendix A, zoning committee.
Thank you, sir. As you said, this is ordinance number 2021-06. It's an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Mangonia Park, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Mangonia Park at Appendix A zoning at Section 9 districts to add a minimum open space requirement for all zoning districts within the town, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Appendix A zoning shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Again, this is first reading. It makes that minor revision to add the open space percentage to your schedule of district regulations. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments from committee? Okay. Seeing that we may have had full discussion at the LPA. Okay. If not, then we'll open the floor to public comment. Is there any comment from the public? Thank you so much. At this time, we'll close the floor to public comment. All right, we'll come back to the dais now and see if there's any additional comments or questions as it relates to the proposed ordinance. Hearing none, motion please.
I make a motion, we approve ordinance number 2021-6, first reading, amending the code of ordinances at Appendix A zoning to add minimum open space requirements.
Thanks so much. Motion has been made and seconded by Councilwoman Green. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yes.
Mayor Longfellow.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next item is item 7.6, and this is ordinance 2021-07. Of course, this is second reading as well, amending Chapter 9 at elections. This, of course, was voted on first hearing at our last meeting, so we'll go now to committee.
Thank you, sir. As you said, this is ordinance number 2021-07. It's an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Mangodian Park, Florida, amending Chapter 9 elections at Section 9-12, canvass of elections in order to confirm the town clerk's authority to delegate duties to the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections as necessary, without further authorization from the Town Council, and to delegate all canvassing and certification responsibilities to the County Canvassing Board, directing the town clerk to transmit a certified copy of this ordinance to the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 9 elections shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. This is second reading. There was full discussion at the last hearing, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. You've heard it read by title as well as the discussion at the last meeting, but if there's additional questions or comments, we'll entertain those at this time.
If we could solicit public too, I don't know if anybody's come on.
Okay. Seeing that there's no council comments or questions, we'll now open the floor to public comment. Thank you so much. We'll close the floor now to public comments. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Any comments or questions as it relates to ordinance 2021-07? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Green.
Oh,
Yes.
we need a motion, sorry.
I'm sorry. Move right ahead.
Sorry, sir.
My apologies. Stand corrected. Okay. At this point in time, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to ordinance 2021-07, second reading, amending Chapter 9, elections, Section 9-12, canceling elections.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Has been properly moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Now roll call. Okay.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith. Vice Mayor Johnson. And Mayor Longfellow.
Yes.
Passes unanimously on second reading.
Thank you so much. We'll continue on our agenda. Our next item is item 7A, and this is a request for approval of outside storage at Brick Markers USA Incorporated for the storage of bricks at 4430 West Tiffany Drive. property control numbers as listed on your agenda. At this time, the applicant is present, so we'll just ask if you would just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Sharon Rick with Brick Markers USA, and my address here at the office is 4430 West Tiffany Drive, Magnolia Park.
Thank you so much, and we do have your application before us, but what we want to do is just give you the floor and give an explanation as to why you're requesting the storage.
Okay, thank you so much, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I've been here in the town of Magnolia Park. I purchased a building in 2015. We're located right here around the corner, and I'm the building that has a fence around it. And when we moved in, I unfortunately was under the impression that I had already had the outside storage permit. And so we have stored product inside our warehouse where we can. Actually added shelving to help, consolidate more of it inside the building. But we do have some of the storage that sits outside of the building. It's in the fenced-in area. And it wasn't until, I guess, the new inspector came and addressed some things with me that we discovered that there was no official permit for outside storage. So I'm here requesting for the outside storage permit. And it does vary. Sometimes there's a little more, sometimes there's a little less. We do keep the yard in as much order as we possibly can. And to keep it orderly, keep it clean, and keep the town of Magnolia Park in a nice look and environment. So I can answer any questions that anyone may have.
Okay, thank you so much. So at this time, also, if there's any questions from council, any council questions or comments?
Yes, specifically on IWE, you're asking for at the time permits, what you're asking for permit for outside storage. I'm looking at some of the slides and bricks.
Yes.
What other items, are you trying to store any other items other than bricks? Hopefully not liquids or hazardous materials.
No, thank you. Only bricks. They're clay pavers.
Yes.
We have some pallets that are out there, of course, from the bricks. We do dispose of those from time to time. We have a company that picks them up, and we pay for them to pick up those pallets. But there is no storage of any kind of liquids. We don't work with any of that type of material. There would be no reason for us to store anything of that nature. The only thing we have is a propane tank or two that stay inside the building, and we do have notification on our fence that we have the propane tank, but that's for our forklift.
And my last question, I'll let you go, is going to be directed to you, it's all directed to the management staff, since you're a secret committee. My only other concern is, papers didn't use silica sand, we'll get into that. If there's silica sand that holds the papers in place, it's like compressed rocks or gravel that will hold the papers in place. They're not going to be having that type of materials on that site, are they?
Well, we don't manufacture the bricks. We bring in the product in from Ohio and North Carolina, where they're manufactured up there. They're clay pavers. We work with different organizations for the fundraising industry. And so we have clay pavers there in order for us to engrave on them for donor recognition for organizations looking for ways to raise money.
Thank you, but I'm asking specifically, you didn't answer the question. The question is, I understand that it's going to be papers, that's why you're asking for the outside storage and seeking permitting for that. I wanted to be clear though, that's why I was asking directly the question to staff as well as you. Usually we have papers, silica sand follows, at least either loose or in bags. We're not going to be having that type of item at that same facility, are they? The sand there, the 90-pound bags, the 80-pound bags.
No, there's no bags.
That's what I'm asking.
No, there are no bags of silica sand at our location at all.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Anything else, Councilman Smith? Okay. Other questions or comments? Other council comments or questions? Just while the other council is formulating their questions, perhaps. Now, I'm looking at the photos, and I know that you probably didn't take a tape measure today or anything else, but just in terms of your best educated guess, what would you say the square footage of that area is?
Oh, that's a good question.
Okay.
I can get that information
Okay.
to you. I don't have it offhand. It is towards the back of our building.
Mhm.
Our driveway is a very big, long concrete
Mhm.
driveway where the parking of cars is in the front. So this is towards the back of the fence
Mhm.
area.
Okay.
You
Right.
know, I would say maybe 1,200 square feet.
Okay.
I'm guessing, totally guessing.
Oh, yes, not a problem. I'm just trying to get a perspective. So let's just say that there's 100 square feet back there, just for
Okay.
conversation. How much of that 100 feet would you anticipate at any given time will be taken up with bricks for storage?
Well, 100 square feet will be taken up pretty much on a consistent basis.
No, I'm sorry. Let's just say that what we're looking at is 100 square, just for conversation
Okay.
purposes. Let's say that all of what we're looking at is 100 square feet,
Okay.
right? Of that 100 square that we're looking at from the pictures, how much of that space would be taken up at any given time? A third of it, a fourth of it, a fifth of it?
Oh, I would say a third of it to a half of it for sure. We do store brick outside, and it always has continuous bin storage of the brick outside as well as inside.
Mhm.
And as we deplete our inventory and we bring more inventory in, sometimes we are ridding of that inventory, but sometimes we're bringing back more product.
Okay, so just kind of,
Continuous basis.
okay, but at no point in time will it ever exceed half of that space back there, or
Oh, no.
historically?
I mean, it's not gonna, we can't because we need that other section for parking cars.
Mhm. Which brings me to that question. Now, what is your foot traffic like? Because as I'm looking, I see that it is stored in parking spaces.
Yeah.
So what is your foot traffic like?
Well, there are a couple parking spaces, and at the day that I took those pictures, you
Mhm.
saw more brick in that parking space. We don't have a lot of foot traffic. We work with our organizations throughout the U.S. and worldwide, so we don't have really customers that come and visit us on a regular basis. From time to time, they may come and want to visit or tour or sit down and talk, but most of my sales staff work remotely, so they work, outside of the office, where most of the people don't come to our office. We usually conduct business with them via the phone, via email. So you don't really see a lot of customers coming. Sometimes they may want to come pick up their bricks, which may be a box or two, but it's very rare. Most of the staff is really the only people that park there.
Mhm. Okay. If I can get you to just ruminate in your mind in terms of just what was the history, let's say the last, prior to COVID. Okay. How many customers at one given time was the most customers that you've experienced there in terms of cars? How many cars at any given time?
At one given time,
Mhm. The
one
most.
customer.
One customer?
Yeah.
So it's never exceeded one car at a time, or?
No, it's usually not more than one customer that may come see us. There's not several customers that come see us at one time.
Mhm. Okay. And how many parking spaces do you have all total? Just
I
rough.
think there's 12 or
There's 12.
14. And we have 4 to 5 employees that work in the office.
They all drive separately, or they carpool?
They drive separately. And the majority of the other half of my staff work remotely.
Okay. So in terms of employees, including yourself, there would be 5 cars.
Car total, 5 probably.
Okay, about 5 out of 12. Okay.
Maybe 6, counting here.
Okay. So you're at the half already. Okay.
Yeah, probably 6.
Okay.
Because we have a night shift, so when my day shift leaves, the night shift comes in, so. But at one given time, I would say 5 or 6 at the most.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Those are the questions I have at this time. We'll see if there's any additional questions.
Just,
McConnell?
I guess what you do, you have orders that come to your warehouse and then you ship them out?
Correct.
Do you ship them out yourself or or you have a hauler that just comes, picks them up and?
We do not ship them out personally. We deal with different freight carriers that will come and pick up the product, and then they ship it to the customer for us.
So basically you just warehouse?
We are warehouse and fulfillment. We do our engraving there. We do the brick engraving, package them up, and then the freight carriers we'll call the freight carriers. They'll come pick up the orders, and then they'll get shipped accordingly throughout the U.S.
Okay. Okay. Other questions or comments? Okay. Oh, great. Now, of course, the method behind my questioning was that, of course, buildings, as you would know, from the very inception of them, when they begin to get built, they bring in their plans. There is a space allocation, parking space requirement based upon your square footage, and just wanted to make sure that we were in harmony with that. So let me go to Amity, just as it relates to the request. So about half of it, roughly, at any given time, in terms of the parking spaces, we'll have.
Okay, so in terms of the parking spaces, because if you're talking about the space,
Mhm.
there is space that is back where the parking spaces have never been utilized, or I don't even know that we have parking spaces back there. So I would say, if you're saying the area where parking is, I would say not even a third of parking spaces is utilized for bricks. Now, if you're talking about that whole concrete area, that's what I'm saying. It's towards the back
Mhm.
where all the bricks sit. So there's really no bricks that are sitting where people have to park or they can't park or anything like that. We keep those bricks to the far back as much as possible. If any of the bricks are taking up any parking spaces, I would say there may be 2 to 3 maximum at any given time are being used
Mhm.
for the bricks.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, thanks so much. Alrighty, so with that clarification, because I wanted to make sure that if you had 12 parking spaces all total, and 6 were being used by employees, including yourself, then yeah, further explanation would have been necessary. Okay, Roddy, any other questions or comments?
Yes, my question then now is to, since they're applying for a committee, so can you have a walk or do on that for the committee side? She's requesting for committee. They sound that word. Yes.
Yeah, this is outside the store.
Right.
Right.
Did the applicant request for permitting 2 doors that's probably very part of our sign?
That's what she's.
Okay, so for a walk-in, maybe.
Well, she has presented, you voted up or down, and if you vote down, then she goes back to the drawing board and maybe reconfigure some stuff and it comes back to you, or you approve it. And
This
that's-
is the same building that Home Stucco had, so she did her opening statement, she was saying she was under the impression that she already had storage when they sold her the building. And so she applied for she did all of her paperwork for the license, and she got that right away, but no one ever followed over on either side as far as her not knowing that she didn't already have outside storage. So she corrected it with the new code office, and she applied, and that's what the application is here, and she paid the fee, and that's why she's here before you. This is not catering to the retail trade, it's in the PCC zoning district. I don't know the parking on the top of my head for that.
I don't know what was site planned either, so I don't know how many parking spaces were approved on the site plan. It's difficult to tell from the photos whether, it looks like they're filling at least 1 or 2 spots, but I don't know how far the parking spaces were site planned over to the edge of the property.
All right.
Okay. Ready? If there are any other questions or comments? Right. Now, I don't see and it's not generally stated on an application, but just to have some clarity in terms of just me trying to visualize it. I'm familiar with the property and trying to visualize it. So just a question before we move on it. So and just trying to get some general idea in terms of what I'm looking at. This doesn't appear to be half of that back area where I'm currently seeing bricks that sort of take that L shape.
So if you were to pull up in the driveway,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's a long
Mm-hmm.
distance from the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
There's a parking space to the left, there are parking spaces off to the right. And this area of bricks does not take up, and I'm sorry, I misunderstood your initial.
No, you actually have it. What I'm looking at is
Take
just.
up half of it.
Okay.
It's all the way to the very back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big area there where there's no parking spaces at all, where our chiller is, where our air conditioner is,
Mm-hmm.
which was, you know, all of course approved. You know, engineers, inspectors come out, everything was approved. And at the time I purchased the building, I was under the understanding that even Palm Beach Stucco in the past had stored things outside and that there wasn't any
Okay.
issue.
Well, certainly, we understand. No, specifically, just as it relates to the area in the back.
So I would say, let's say a third, and I
Okay.
don't want to misspeak, I just would have been a little more.
Oh,
prepared.
not a problem, because I'm considering, from my standpoint, if there's a motion affirmative, in the affirmative, that it would be that no more than half of that area be taken up for storage, right? Because you're talking egress and such, getting things in, pallets and out and so forth, so we don't want to create a hazard. Okay?
I understand.
All right. So with that, is any other questions or comments? Hearing none. So we do have before us a request for approval of outside storage. So let me just go back. Okay. Righty, so for this particular item, we do have a request for outside storage at Brick Markers USA for the storage of bricks at 4430 West Tiffany Drive at the property control numbers listed in your agenda. That is the request before us. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, move that we approve the outside storage request from Brick Makers USA as stated in the agenda.
Okay, motion has been made. Second. Has been properly moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
and Mayor Olvera.
Yes.
It passes unanimously.
Okay.
Thank you
Well, thanks so
very,
much.
very much.
Certainly, you have a great evening. Oh,
Thank you.
certainly. Okay. Okay, our next item is item 7B, and this is a request for approval of a special event application number 2021-01, Centralia Holmes Bergman, Haryana, Precious Hands Incorporated. Applicant is present.
Mr. Mayor, the applicant is not here, so I guess a request from staff would be to table this item. Perhaps she would like to come back, but she was informed of the meeting time and place. I'm not sure what happened.
Alrighty, so is it the pleasure of the council to table the item for just advance it to the next agenda? If so, is there such a motion?
Motion to table this and next.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Full same sign. It is carried. Thanks so much. Our next item is item 7C, and this is a request for approval to waive the 500 fee, and this is a companion to that. Okay. Since it was a separate item, we'd also take a vote on that, and that would be, I guess, the table as well. Since she's not- 7.
They were together, actually. The C is for the next one.
Oh, okay. I saw
I
that.
did
Oh,
it.
my apologies. I'm looking at it wrong. And got all my glasses. Okay, so it all came together. So the next is item 7C, discussion on the approval of an agreement between the town of Magnolia Park and Comcate Software for the installation of code enforcement software and support services. Ken?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, this agreement, I think I explained to all of you in your one-on-one prior, we did our one-on-ones mostly over the phone this time. This is an agreement that the ask is to ratify this agreement. It has already been signed and a check has been issued. So the request would be to ratify this by council. What this program is, this is something our code enforcement officer, Mr. Cartwright, had been asking for a couple of years. So what we did, we got our IT director, Mr. Cato, involved. Between Mr. Cato and our code enforcement officer, they started researching. They researched the program that West Palm Beach had. As it turns out, West Palm Beach has their own program, so we could not combine with that. We did attempt to look at our software program through Black Mountain, and that was just too early on in their development. So finally, our IT consultant director came up with this. He's consulted with Mr. Cartwright. They feel like this will be something that will bring a lot of new efficiency as far as our code enforcement process goes. This will enable our code enforcement people to be able to do quite a bit of work from in the field. And I believe ultimately this takes a lot of the burden off our office staff administratively. At least that's the hope. So that's the intent. I would ask that council consider approving this agreement or ratifying the agreement that has already been signed. And the reason it was done this way, we wanted to get this in before fiscal year 2021 expired, which was last week. So that's why it's coming before you in this fashion. The attorney worked well with the company. They got a lot of the kinks ironed out, and if she wants to comment, she can, but I'll certainly answer any questions that you may have.
Certainly. So we'll give Amity opportunity.
Sure thing, sir. Thank you, Manager Metcalf. I don't have anything specific to add. We did, as Ken said, I did have a conversation with the provider, and we did work out a couple of discrepancies. They'd originally provided a proposal to the town. There were some things in there that I had issue with, so we worked through those. And as you see in your agenda backup tonight, it's your standard town agreement with the provisions that the town prefers to have in a contract, and the vendor did agree to sign our contract, with their proposal being an exhibit to that. So that's what's in your backup tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments as it relates to the item?
Yes.
Okay, Councilman Smith.
And so thank you, Attorney, for reading off and bringing us up to speed as well as the manager. If we decide to vote and enter a contract, since the check has already been cut and we just have a verification because of the budget year, how long will this contract be for this software if we go forward?
Go ahead. So the initial term is for 1 year. The one thing that I did negotiate with the vendor is that their proposal had what essentially locked you in to, after the first year, it locked you into each subsequent year. So I got them to agree to that not being the case. So this does lock you in for that 1 year, but then there's your normal standard option to terminate should you decide not to proceed after that first year. But the term in this agreement is for 1 year, and then by mutual agreement of the parties to extend it thereafter.
Other questions or comments, Council?
Also, let me add to that issue. I did at some point, I guess we had a lot of discussion with the new code enforcement system coming on board and everything. I actually had, in Cartwright, did a special hearing where we did a property by sure home. We actually was here. At that time, I had some discussion, we had discussion with me, and I'm not sure how other council members about the importance of having a software upgrade for working in the field. So, if it's going to make the town and job efficient, I thought it was a good thing. I didn't know the ins and outs, but the professionals talked about that. And so, since you have looked at the contract and kind of pointing some things up, I kind of like the direction that we're going.
Other comments or questions?
Well, I just want to say I'm truly in favor of any software functioning that would make the work of the code enforcement officers more efficient. And I'm glad to know that recognition has been given to that effect. I'm certain that this will be appreciated by the code enforcement department, and I think we should move forward with this.
Thank you. Any other, Councilman McConnell?
Chair, it was my understanding that, this would take some of the workload off of staff in the office.
That is certainly the hope, and if it doesn't, then I don't think we would review that. I mean, for me, that's a major thing at this point. So that is the hope. We feel like it will.
Okay. Anything else? Other questions or comments? Okay, I have none. I got all the clarification in my one-on-one, so I have no questions on the item. If there's no other. No, I stated I have none. I got all of the clarification I needed with my one-on-one with the manager. So if there's other questions council have, we'll reserve that time for you. Okay, seeing that there's no other questions or comments. Okay, so we'll close the floor now to questions, and we'll go right to a motion. Motion, please.
Motion that we approve agreement between the town of Mayberry Park, Comcast Software for installation of code enforcement software and support services.
Okay, motion has been made that we ratify the approval of the agreement between the Magnolia Park and Comcast Software for the installation of code enforcement software and support services. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember McConnell,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson, and Mayor Older.
Yes. Thank you so much. Our next item is our item 8, our public comments. So at this time, we'll open the floor to any public comment. Any comments from the public?
I'm happy code enforcement is actually getting their own tool for this process.
Alrighty, any other comments from the public? And just by way of preliminary, there's none, okay. So we'll close the floor to public comment if there's no other comment. Thank you so much. So at this point in time, if there's any, we'll move on in our agenda. Our next is Ken, you have anything?
So, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, thank you for your time this evening. I want to thank Mr. Buchanan Webb for coming out and giving a really informative presentation on the Youth Council. It is our desire to get this up and running again. We'll make sure that during the one-on-ones, we walk everyone through exactly what's going to happen, when the meetings are going to be, whether they're virtual or in person. It's a good thing. You know, not blaming everything on COVID, but before COVID, this really had a lot of momentum, and I think we can capture that back. Speaking of one-on-ones, we've had some really good discussions over the summer, and now here in the early fall. Thank you for that. My intent is to, when you bring something to me, to follow up with that, and if that means bringing it to council, just to get, complete, everyone weighing in on that, and then eventually taking action, we'll do that. One thing that was discussed during the budget process was, and this came at the tail end, to set some priorities as far as road paving goes. And at our next meeting, I'll have our engineer, Mr. Van Cott, here, and y'all can fire away at him and at me, and we'll set some priorities. We did pass a very generous budget for street paving and for repairs, so we'll definitely get your input on that. We also had quite a bit of conversation about Christmas decorations. And when we come back for our next meeting, I'm very interested to hear what your thoughts are, what we should get, how much of it, where we should put it. This is something we'll have to get on order very quickly following that. So when we come back for the meeting on the 19th. I'd really like to get your input on that, and, you know, and certainly before that, during our one-on-ones, or you can just call me, but that's something we'll have to take some action on very quickly. During the one-on-ones, I've heard a lot of good comments about 45th Street, traffic calming, beautification. None of that's been forgotten. It's all in the works. There's been conversations with the county. Ms. Green and I had a conversation with Nick Huron of the TPA a couple of weeks ago. The TPA is going to be proposing that when this current surtax sunsets, that we countywide get involved with a transportation surtax. That's early on in the discussions, but that is coming. I'd like to have Nick here at some point, maybe in the new year, to talk about that and talk about how that may benefit Magnolia Park. Otherwise, that's all that I have. I do know in reference to the park, in our one-on-ones, we've talked about the park and the playground equipment that's coming. During the budget process, we talked about expansion of the building. And I know, Councilman McConnell, when we were talking about the expansion of the building, you spoke up to me in the one-on-one and said, hey, we really need to get the storage situated before we expand the building. So I know Councilmember Green has worked hard looking at this grant opportunity. If we're going to do some things on that grant does indicate a shovel-ready project. We're a good ways off from shovel-ready. But you do see the options back here. Maybe at the next meeting, after we talk about road paving, we can talk about the park in detail a little bit more. We've had a staff member go to a park, take some pictures. I'll have that up on the screen for you to look at. And I don't mean to ramble, so I'll leave it at that. So the park is an issue, has been some conversations, and I appreciate your time this evening. I'll answer any questions that you may have.
My apologies, I was checking to make sure that we are on YouTube Live from my phone. The noise you heard was him speaking because we still don't have viewers. I wanted to make sure that I could access it. Everybody else should.
Okay, all right, thank
No
you.
worries.
Okay. Not a problem. Any questions or comments we can? That's Councilman Green.
Mr. Metcalf, you forgot to tell the council for the meeting we are having with North Shore, the community.
The North Shore Neighborhood Association, Councilman Smith and myself have been there on a couple of occasions, a long time ago, way before COVID. They have invited town council to come to their meeting. I believe that's, I'll verify, November 9th, that's a Tuesday, to participate in a discussion, if you will, about 45th Street, the flea market, the highlight property, that kind of thing. I apologize, I did forget that, but that did come up in conversation on traffic. So I'll send out a reminder. It'll also be in the manager's report. Tuesday, November 9th at 7 o'clock. And I forget the name of the church.
Grace Episcopal.
Grace Episcopal Church, and it's, Mr. Taylor's still president of that, he's no longer in the loop.
Mr. Eric Morris.
Just down there, new guy,
Okay, alrighty, so noted, and we'll get those reminders. Okay, great. Alrighty, Captain?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. Or any questions or comments for the captain?
I got a comment, I don't have a question. I see you, so thank you. That's all I want to say on that. You're very visual. That's all I want to say.
Alrighty, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Okay, Amity?
Nothing specific, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments for Amity?
Appreciate you for clearing up some of the legal. I mean, I get confused real quick without talking legal stuff.
Anytime, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for clearing some things up.
Okay, so you turned in your law degree?
I turned in regular bar or something.
Okay. Alrighty.
Comprehension well.
All right, we'll go to
Can you
council
get back in the
comments.
kitchen?
All righty, McConnell, you have anything? Okay, all right, Councilman Smith?
Cooperate time, but I'm good.
Okay, Councilwoman Green?
I'd just like to apologize to our attorney, and I'd just like for you to educate me. The council probably automatically know when I made the comments when Ms. Weld was talking and I said we need to meet with the captain. I know that's right, but when I mentioned your name, I was wrong, right?
But that's fine. No need for an apology. You're
Okay,
fine.
I just want to know. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, Vice Mayor?
No, nothing else. Y'all invited to
Adjourn.
my birthday party coming up Saturday night.
Okay, well invited?
Y'all invited.
Okay.
I said yes, sir.
Well, thanks, we
You having
appreciate
a
it.
party?
It's virtual.
Oh, no food, I'm coming.
I
can't eat it virtual.
I've never ate virtual food, so you have to make the food real.
It's a fun party.
6 to 9 on Saturday.
Saturday night, laughter for lunch.
Okay, well, you gotta have Uber,
Bring back the fun.
you gotta have Uber Eats deliver the food, however. Okay. I have nothing, so if there's nothing else for the good of the order, motion for adjournment? Okay, is there a second? Properly moved in second, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thanks so much, have a great evening and continue to be safe. And we'll see you at the next meeting.
Captain, make it home. Mr. Mayor, I like that chair.
But yeah, when I first saw it, I said, gray, ooh, I like we got the talking chair set it off, but gray and green is okay. Right. Oh, and I was gonna just remind everybody, let's chair it down, because we've been pushing the old chairs that have been fraying the arms. When they go up under here.
Mine already down.
Yeah, that's what that freeing. Yeah, so we have to let them
So we
down.
can go now, right?
But yeah, so we have to let them down when we get out.
Good night, everybody.
So we can preserve it.
Good night.
Good night.
Councilman Smith, where you going? We're supposed to go out the side door, right?
Oh.
We can go out that door? Okay.
Have a good evening. Sorry.
Oh, Rachel.
You guys have your new chair, I keep my old.
No, not to go.
I'm gonna have to see what we can do about
It's
this.
just a matter of,
Maybe I'll switch with Sherry.
like the moment you let them down, free the arms.
Yeah.
No, you got room, you got room.
Okay. I think it came back up.